know her list is why you shouldn't have kids because they're a mess. But I think we should do a real list on what you should know about parenting prior to being a parent or to decide if you want to be a parent. Number 1, you better figure out how to look in a mirror and critically tear yourself apart so that you're able to heal yourself and grow, because if you don't, you will have tiny mirrors walking around tearing you apart so that you can grow. And you're going to have one of two reactions. You're either going to grow or you're going to hyperreact and double down on bad behaviors. Number 2, be willing to provide financially for your children without holding it over their head as if somehow you providing for them financially wasn't just your job. It's definitely not fair to act like you're doing some kind of favor just providing for them. Like that's your job. Number 3, you're not having a baby to have an accessory. You're not having a child so that it's an extension of yourself. You're giving birth to an entire other human who is going to go off and make their own impact in the world, and you are just part of their story. And though you have a really big part of their story, you are not their entire story. They are their own person. They are not an extension of you. Which is why terms like "that's my mini-me" and other reflective behaviors are sometimes not great. And I struggle with that sometimes too, because I see myself and my children in good ways. I'm like, oh look, that's just like me. But then I see bad ways and I'm like, oh look, that's just like me. Oof. Or have a basic understanding of childhood development. Here we break it down into 0 to 6 being the acid trip years, 7 to 12 being the literal years, 13 to 18 being the years where they start to walk off on their own, and then their early adult years where you really just become their coach. And eventually, just their consultant. Because once you have a basic understanding of these different development planes, you know how to best show up for them. Because remember, you have a lot more collective experience than they do, and you can't automatically speak to them out of your collective experience when they don't have that. 3-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, all of them have different levels of experience, and we need to understand not only where they are developmentally, but also their collective knowledge. Which means it should be a lot less of "you should have known better" and a lot more of "why didn't they know better?" And last, but certainly not least, is that you need to remember there are going to be years of parenting that are not always super rewarding. And you need to be willing to show up in the moments where it's not super rewarding and that it is hard and you're willing to get your hands dirty. That you're willing to dig into yourself and heal yourself. That you're willing to dig into them and help heal them. That you're willing to be humble and empathetic, but you're also not willing to be a pushover. That you're willing to do the work to break the generational trauma, and most of that generational trauma is going to show up in the hardest years. And in order to do that, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to put the brakes on yourself, and you're going to have to really dig in and heal yourself so that you don't pass that forward. And if you're not willing to do any of those things, parenting is probably not for you. The tiny people that we welcome onto this planet deserve the best of us. And if we either cannot or we are not willing to grow, then it's probably not best to be a parent.